the start of the series, and I don't know if that came through.
I don't know if it did come through.
Are
we going to be leaking it to the entire audience?
There it is. Nice some OXG chants. Threats of kissing each other.
Yeah, definitely.
That's C.
Oh, there we go. Now
There
everyone
we
can
go.
read it.
So the winner has to kiss the other team. That's how it goes, I guess. Turkey, Nurk. Yeah, that sounds about right. They're still just talking about kissing each other. Shout out to Nathan, he's in the crowd.
Shout out, Nathan. Cade is banned as well. Let's get one more going on for the last ban to come through on the fence. That's what I've missed.
No.
Valkyrie gone as well.
There hasn't been a single Tachanka. No.
Oh, I think everybody has learned from banning
Can't
Tachanka on the big stage.
Yeah, yeah. Lockers CCTV, and they talked about it on the desk very briefly there, is G2 can be good at this map, but they weren't recently, and that's the main thing. OXG, they've had time to look over that, to digest, and sure, OXG had 2 teams to potentially prepare for as well, but you're looking at it as they're very familiar with one of their opponents, they're very familiar with the interleague play against Astralis. That hasn't come together.
No, it hasn't quite come together fully yet. Will not come together either. Lockers is the first side we will head to, and this side, of course, is for many teams the primary side you often see. Now, there is a big difference in win rate between G2's defenses here and Oxygen's. Oxygen is actually a 60% win rate on the Lockers on the bottom floor, which will give plenty of opportunity for G2 to get themselves in with a good lead in here, with a good first attack, because the stronghold is not really that strong for Oxygen.
It's such a vague concept, isn't it? It's the one where you sort of go, how much prep have they done? How much prep do they still have to do? And did they really do what we thought they might have done? G2. The problem here, and the problem that seems to have struck them, is sometimes they get a little bit loose. They get a little bit lost in the hero plays. OXG, their run has been so solid because they have shut that down. From so many other teams, the sort of roaming routes, the way they've sashayed around the maps itself hasn't really squandered against the OXG backline, and it will start up here. Newers, obviously, all eyes on, and it's jumped out already. Finds the swing on Blur, quickly picked back up there with Alamau getting a second. Oh, Alamau even getting that, and Doki getting the second, and hey, we're on bank. Welcome to it.
Instantly starting off very explosive here as the G2 fans are starting to come through as well. Bit of a pre-fire near Foxay, needs to be careful. It's going to be hunted down slightly. G2 still very active on that top floor, but the thing is, you want to get a drone out on Foxay. However, he's soulless. He's going to be able to jump up and misses the shot. The fuser dropped outside. Foxay running out as well, knowing he probably will have escaped with his life. But how is Foxay going to be able to get back into the site?
I mean,
which option is he choosing?
He's chosen the worst option. That's the one that they'll have the instant lock to. They got top square, they've got the top of the balcony. However, it's a lot of time that's been taken away. The diffuser, the kit, is on the far end of the world. They've got to try and get that back. They've got to focus themselves towards, oh wait, where's the site? It's on the bottom of the building. All the attention being paid to those windows, to outside, to whatever, is sort of a statement. OXG saying, you're not going to let up, you're not going to get comfortable. We're going to waste so much time, because time is a very precious resource on this site more than probably any other.
It definitely is, but there is also the big point that G2 can leverage right now. They have a man advantage, and it is only 2 defenders left, so you don't really need to be fully clearing everything out. Dream, however, still out on the server stairs, is going to be able to provide a bit of an issue as he's playing out there with the shotgun, but also might allow Vertical to be isolated, because these hatches are opened up, the main stairs can be utilized. G2 might just collapse on Vertical and not give Dream an opportunity to try and take him down.
They have the player isolated. They last knew of Dream on the top of blue, so Vertical has to get himself a little bit closer towards the duo, because if they get picked off one at a time, yeah, that will probably be all that they can get themselves run in for. The drop onto the back end of the elevator. There's a bit of a rotate in the site. Doki just saw the side of Vertical, who tucks himself in. 15 seconds. And a slow rotate round the back of the vault itself. They've held up the front, the corridor. There's Dream with the rotate right round onto the door. Takes care of Benjamaster. Doki, he's in the middle of 2. Sees 1. Goes for the pistol. Can't get the connection. And find the man getting the plant down. Virtue, can he get up? No!
Way too close for comfort, though.
Right, Mexican wave across.
3, 2, 1, up!
Up! Oh, no! The wave was fantastic, everyone.
Sadly, everybody else is seeing the replays instead of your perfect wave.
This is round one. This is how round one broke apart. We saw this one. Hopefully we'll get some eyes into round two, because we just had a top-down view as well. We saw...
I mean, technically, every player POV is being recorded.
Yeah. That was round one. It was a magical time. Here's round two. As I said, Virtue came up. Doki broke there. They swung around the first fight. Dream on long desk. He was able to get himself out, but got picked apart in Janitors. There it is. Then it was the top square. Hey, I said that. Oh, there's so many lights!
Lights are coming out.
Oh, we need the spider cam. There's so many lights.
We're back in!
We're back in the game!
Well, I mean...
Can we request the camera of the room, please? That would be so cool right now.
We'll just continue this until the big screens are back on as a radio cast. We are headed towards the open area. Again, we're going to see a Maestro, Azami, Solace, Smoke, and Castle on the board for Oxygen. Up against that is going to be Ash, Yana, Ying, Hibana, and Ace from the G2 side. First, those castle barricades are used to block out the quick entries towards that side. We are back. Where did the air horn come from?
I don't even know. Siege's collective brain cells come together in this room, and I'm so proud of all of us. But back into the game we go. The lower bracket final, if you've somehow forgotten. And one apiece. G2, they're able to claim the second round. And they're going to see if they can try and steady on the similar approach, but a different site. It's over onto open this time. They're trying to get that first engagement, that first lead. They hit themselves with a double strike last time, and it was pretty powerful. Fox, what can you do?
It's that big question. We'll receive some pressure soon. The keeper barriers are going to be protecting him, but he's blinded out. Elamau is going to be repelling in, using another instantly to follow up so they can go for the hunt. The pings are coming through. A grenade right into the elevator. Is it in time? Yes, it is. Doki finds Sweater. That's the top floor. Not completely clear yet. There's still another player they have to find with the name of Newers. He's receiving a bit of pressure from below from his friends to see if they can help him out vertically.
Holding on and waiting for somebody to peek their way in as a Benja special, but Doki's trying to force that motion across the top. You see the replay of the play on the grenade right in, followed up with the gun skill. It's the swing back and a steady break here. They've got the open, they've got the rotate, and that's the thing you can do on this site. But now you're concerned, are they going to push their way back up green, up blue? Well, they have the choice of both here.
They do have the choice, but Doki's waiting on one of them. And as long as the Solace has just seen this drone pass, he is not aware of the fact that he might be watched. So Doki will wait in patience. He's just going to see if there's any movement coming across. See a big rotation over the top happening from G2. They're getting themselves in a better position. As now the push comes through. Openings will be made as well with the Hibana Excaras. Newers will be forced to drop back as he has been droned out. And G2 will continue their preparation.
Benja, he's trying to get that angle, he's trying to get that break across the big quad wall, but nothing is being handed to him. Look at Blur on the far end, though. He's crouched above stock right next to Candelas, and they're waiting for the push to start to come down. Doki finding one more, screams his way down the stairs. They're going back towards the hatch. Newers, what can he do? He gets one, and he gets himself a rotate out of there. He's going to look for the second fight, and he finds it. A huge follow-up. The Candelas are popping off in the site itself. Newers is going to have to waste this round if he wants it to be one for his team, or at least just stop the plant. No! G2 get their second.
Bring themselves to 2-1. Take that advantage as well. And this is what I was personally afraid of when we did head to bank. G2, you know, they might have lost it recently, but they are still a good team on it. Elamau hyping up the crowd.
And Fabian disappointed.
Well, is he disappointed? It's just a bit of a smirk on his face, isn't it? See the grenade kill coming through. Oh, it wasn't really a grenade kill, but it would have picked it up if it wasn't the ARX first. A beautiful shot afterwards. And as G2 just cleaned up very consistently there, some of the issues that we saw the previous time they were here are not here yet. G2 is looking more composed, and that might be due to the fact that they have played the earlier game today. They are warmed up, they are ready, they've had that competition already.
It's always that forever question. Is you can ask any sort of team, you can ask any sort of player, and they'll have a different opinion each time of, do you want to be the team that comes in on the second game where you're heated up? You cannot have a better scrim than game one versus, well, game time. It's a different mindset, it's a different mentality. Or do you want the ability to watch, to sort of get that idea of where the play is and shape it? It's every single player and every single person is different. But OXG, as I said at the start of this, one of the reasons that they've been so good this tournament is the just steady nature of the team. It's a hand that has been entirely balanced and level. They keep on finding themselves against some of the bigger opponents or whoever and saying, we're playing our game regardless of what else is going on around it.
They're aware of at least one player with his Benja all the way up on the roof, so not much they can do with that information. Doki goes for the jump in though, following his drone, the hot drone coming through. He's going to be able to pick one off. Well, not yet. Is he aware of the fact that there's a player in open area waiting around the corner? Also doesn't seem to be the case, as Foxe is hiding steadily, not making too much noise. He's of course on their solace, has the opportunity to spot out any of these drones coming through. And Doki might be facing 3 players very soon if he's not careful.
I mean, it's such a dangerous game. You can see the break is coming directly onto the site itself. They have Newers watched, but Dream has Alamau locked. An important fight, and Doki has to pull back. He can't entirely swing that. As Virtue's waiting, the rotate hits the hatch. They force the play, and that's a very nice barricade. Stops the swing with Foxe getting one more on the way back. They hadn't checked for him. Benja does get the trade. But another unexpected loss is taking a bit of the wind out of the sails here of G2's approach once again on a site where they're a bit too late to the punch last time.
Yeah, but last time they had that man advantage they could work with. That isn't there this time around. So G2, they will have to pull out an amazing round to turn this into their own hands. Openings will be made with the X-Skyros. Quickly checking if there's anybody on the other side that wants to go a bit cheeky. Not the case. Keeper Bearers are going to be locking off some lines aside as well, and the only way to break those, I'm afraid, is just to stand on top of them. It's not going to be ideal. I want to get rid of the player on the service stairs. A grenade will be bounced around the corner. Don't think that will get anybody, but the second one might as they're swinging through.
Oh no, the wrong side! Benja just gets the lockout there against Dream. Is able to get the pick back up. Almost tragic. With Blur quickly swinging around to offer some support and, I don't know, maybe getting the kit planted. A bit of a close fight. They've got the fire and the Bulletproof is watching all of this. Newers, he still has 2 impacts. They still have some danger they can do from range, and Sweater still has a C4 as well, and you're looking at not much time left. How do you do this? They know exactly when you're going for the plant, the bait. You're waiting for fire to pass anyway. We just heard the C4 rip. Virtue's going to have to try and drop the fight and take it. Cannot. Benja gets one. The C4 gets the lockout. And OXG find themselves 2 apiece.
Timeout requested now by Fabian. He's going to be having a talk about what has just happened and how they should be able to approach these next 2 rounds to at least secure themselves a 4-2 split. Of course, it was difficult losing those 2 players initially for the side of G2. You find yourself on such a big disadvantage early on. And as you mentioned, they still need to go downstairs. They still need to clear out the service stairs. There's so much still left to do that there was just not enough time. Hence the timeout. Slow it down, just to bring it back together.
I mean, it's twice in a row it's been that side. Twice in a row they've struggled breaking it across. And a 4-2 attack in half isn't too uncommon. A 3-3 split as well. It's bank. It can work well for good attack teams. There's just something that isn't quite connecting right now, and they want to make sure that they can sort of take themselves over the line. You have to remember that this is where it was opted to be brought. The fight is what OXG wanted here.
Yeah. Statistically speaking, over the Six Invitational, bank has been 52%.
Just Virtue.
No, Virtue's an operator now.
Oh, Virtue's.
But it has been 52% defense-sided over all the rounds played, which means that a 3-3 split is considered good. You know, I mean, that's common at that point.
Yep.
So that's why G2 probably are aiming for that 4-2 split, just to give themselves the extra edge over that second half on their opponent's map pick, so they can just feel a little bit more comfortable going into that second half. By the way, we are back to the round that you have not seen before. Pretty similar lineup that is being brought, a pretty similar kind of setup that is being shown here from Oxygen. And then that big question will become, what are they going to do to make sure that G2 is not going to be able to go for as clean as a take as they were able to find before? Because back then it started off with Virtue sneaking through the lobby, up the spiral stairs, taking that first kill. From there on, they just exploded over them. And Oxygen had nothing left to say.
We move on, and we move back in now to the post-team talk conversation. This rest of the run will be here, and G2, I pointed it out, they sometimes start a bit cautious, a bit slow. There's a slightly different approach. We can almost use comparisons to the round that unfortunately was lost to the effects of time, and you weren't able to see it. Slightly different approach here. More attention is being paid slightly further towards lobby. There's still a couple of players on the windows, but they want to take Newers out first. They want to try and drive the fight instead of going directly onto the windows and breaking themselves in onto the site itself. They knew that that was probably not going to work twice. Fox, is close to the fire, has to catch on at least a grenade. They seem to have some idea. The C4 won't get anybody, though. It has turned into the hottest property around.
Always need to be a bit careful of those grenades coming through. Luckily, there is those magnets as utility. Foxa runs across. Might be eyeing up for a run out here. Two players on that window. Stun is going to get caught by the magnet as well, which means you do not actually get the proximity. You don't know if someone is going to be close. Foxa, of course, did get stunned, but tosses out a second magnet, which is active already, and that means there's still two protecting him.
Started the pressure, the break, and there's Fox suffering the double impact, but the survival is the worrying bit. They have the ping on the player and the impression that they're still there. There's Benja. The nade game, he is connected so well. Vert, what are you going to do? Well, the first fight is maybe on the top there. They know that you're there, though, and that means the jump out cannot come, and you can't even escape. Benja gets his second for the round. The player who in a series earlier on today, when you needed him the most, got more kills than how old he is. And he's starting to see if he can do even better than that. Newers, he's under a big bout of pressure here, trying to keep himself together. The swing and the rotates coming around underneath from Sweater.
He took out one that was up on the rappel to the Yingon as well, a crucial factor for an execute. But Benja's coming around the corner as Newers finds one more. Sweater might be coming up in the back of him, so they need to be very careful now. He's going to find himself kind of stuck in between as Dream strikes him down, leaves G2 in a 2v3, even though they had the advantage. Blur strikes back, comes up on the main stairs, hopes to find one more, spraying a lot through the wall, but won't quite connect.
Blur and Virtue, the support line structure that has really started to turn up for G2 these past couple of days. They're all that's left is trying to see if they can get this round, but look at the time. Only 20 seconds left on the clock.
And a solace against them, so if a plan goes through, you need to be very certain of the fact you can get it down.
I mean, can they be? There's not really anywhere that's safe from this point. The Solace, hello, how you doing? Not very well. Virtue all that's left. He cannot get to the kit, he can't get the fight, and Oxygen, they get a third round.
They retake the lead after having it lost to them in round 2. They got their 3 rounds. They got their 50%. Now they need to try and get one more to achieve the same that was able to be achieved, or wanted to be achieved by G2.
It's unfortunate, I think, here from G2.
It is.
They're being punished from time to place. It's after the timeout as well. It's man advantages they're throwing away. It should be a little bit more controlled. It should be a little bit more coordinated. Obviously, a Solus going under in a 2 versus 2 is a nightmare with 10 seconds left. Not even Pengu knows how to get that out.
Yeah, I think he needs to update his boot camp in that matter. How do you deal with a Solus? There's 20 seconds on the clock. We're headed back towards the open area, back towards that first floor. Let's see if there's any big changes. Well, we do not see a castle this time. It is going to be an Azami played. It's going to be the architect of the team to make sure they slow them down just enough. Now, this was also a very clean and consistent take from G2, where they managed to find the first pick and then just completely snowballed the rest of the defense. And we've just seen Oxygen countered that on CEO. Can they do it again on that different side for the 4-2 split?
G2, you know, 4-2, we talked about it. We talk about 3-3, and we talk about how that's still kind of standard. You don't want to be on the back foot going in on the opposite end. It wasn't, you know, the sort of best performance from them. There's no two ways about that. Last time they were on bank, there's weaknesses that are being exploited here by OXG, but G2 have obviously come in with a sharpness. It's just not quite getting them over the line. Foxay gets out of there before the pressure gets a little bit too hot. It was across all the windows. A late last-second keeper barricade is just going to draw more time away from them. It's been a long day for G2, and keeper barricades just make it that little bit longer.
Yeah, as utility, you're going to have to either play around or destroy, or just take out the Izami. Now, Newers did take a little bit of damage, but nothing lethal. A good way to deal with any future keeper barriers. Kanto is going to be receiving a little bit of pressure, not the player, but the spot as the wall gets opened up. It's going to give a clean line of sight all the way through, which is going to be making it so much harder for players to rotate if they are up on that top floor. Little do they know, though, no one currently is on the side of Oxygen.
But they are watching. Directly underneath, you have the Solace, you have some problem causers, you have some impressions of if we enter, we're going to maybe make a hastier exit that we planned. So it's come up this. A big rotate, the break round onto the top of the square. They've come up lobbying, come up against Foxay, who's been able to take pretty clean and easy take against Benja. Knocked them off the board. Doki, does he expect the swing? Oh, not as much as Newers does.
Newers knew he was there, took him out. Now a 2-man advantage for Oxygen, which they just need to leverage out, and the best way to do that is to play time. They don't need to swing, but Alamau does, finds vertical. Brings it back, at least one more. They still don't really have an opening. They've created some verticality, but that's literally about it. They need to open up the quad wall as well to basically force these players into more uncomfortable positions, which are more easily dealt with. I believe he's heading downstairs just to see if there's any rotations through those hatches as Mute Jammers stop Blur from opening up with the X-Skyros. And there is one, and he finds him!
I mean, Newers was taking that with the impression that there's only 30 seconds left, but to be honest, G2's attention to the site in a last-second moment hasn't always been so succinct. Foxay, he's holding one angle. Dream's going to try and swing it with the shotgun, gets one unpunished. They didn't have the trade out from the back end. He saw the man go down. He knows they might be able to get them back up, but it's precious time once again being removed from G2. The walls are locked. They've just got to swing this and try and push their way into sight. There's an aggressive fight on the door. It's a triple kill, but unless you get that diffuser planted, you're going to lose the round. He's holding on to it, and it's an Oxygen round.
Gives us the 2-4 split. Puts them in a really good position here for the remainder of this game. All they need now is 3 rounds to find themselves with that first map.
There's the cosplayer with the working.
Honestly, I was going to say that pulse cardiac sensor
unbelievable
works. Yeah, insane.
The one that you all just saw on stream, it actually works. Siege cosplayers terrify me.
All right.
OXG, solid half. They played the time game. They obviously looked at what G2 was struggling with. That's what they were putting pressure on. You saw it in their motions. They only made them when they knew it was going to be something that slowed G2 down. They cut them back a little bit. They made things problematic just before G2 were ready to rock and roll into the site. And you lose a body, you lose 2. If it's still part of your plan of making sure they lose a minute and a half or 2, then that's the plan. And it's a round win is a round win, regardless of how close or scrappy or the KD of it.
Now I'm going to be giving G2 fans some good news here. Over the entire tournament so far, they've only lost their defense on Armory and Lockers once. The entire tournament. They've won it every single other time they played it. So that is why they're starting off here. They want to be making sure they at least pick up those 2 rounds. Stokey almost gets sprayed down. I don't think they actually knew he was there. It might just be actually to open up the door, but he caught a stray or 2.
He's going to try and keep himself slightly further away from the danger as we get OXG's approach. And you can talk about how good G2 are on defense at the minute, but they got to make sure they don't get pulled apart. As I said, consistency is key, and it's OXG's biggest key for many, many locks. Doki, you can see he's trying to find a fight. He wants to be the start and the first point, but it's not being offered to him. At this point, he has to pull himself away, has to move, has to keep looking for empty spaces, because if it comes suddenly, then he's in a dangerous position.
There's a cardiac sensor, there's the C4, there's the kill. Picked up the Buck. That's going to be removing a lot of the vertical opportunities. Of course, luckily, Buck, not the most important operator for his side. Snewers goes aggressive and finds Doki.
I mean, he just kept on leaning in. You could see Doki sprayed it a little bit earlier. Benja's not going to give up the territory immediately. He wants them to have to keep checking it and rechecking it. But look at the pressure around Gold. They go into the back end. They've got lobby. They're getting that droned out. Benja sort of had the big reveal a minute 30. And OXG aren't too interested in Square, but Alamau is interested in Vert, and that might change things. Alamau, off on an adventure on the top floor, finds another. Benja takes a bit of damage in the site itself, and with the drop right onto the back of the Gold, Virtue.
3-4. And G2, they continue their trend of winning Armory Lockers. Of course, as mentioned, only lost it once this entire tournament so far. And that's going to be giving them potentially 2 rounds, but that means they need to find at least 2 other ones on different sides to find themselves at 6 and an opportunity for OT. And Oxygen, you know, that they feel confident. This is why they chose this map. They know they can take G2 here.
I mean, you got to have confidence. You know that it's a team that's dispatched pretty much every NA team.
Yeah.
They've been up and down at points, but against North America, very up. And up and up and up.
Yeah.
And that's a terrifying stat. That's a statistic, because you always have how a region plays. You have the sort of writing on the bylines of this is what we like to do. And yeah, teams have differences, and there are changes, no doubt. You cannot compare a team so succinctly in the DNA of it, but still, there's mentalities. There's a core of a region. And if somebody's got that sort of pulled apart, it becomes a bit more of a challenge to break it intrinsically.
All right, here we go for the next site on G2's defense. Are they going to go aggressive?
Maybe.
Are they going to slow it down? We don't know. I mean, there is going to be an Oryx on the board, so jumping up and down these hatches might be a name of a play they are going for. But as the first RC Retiro comes in, that is going to be taking care, no, not actually of the keeper barricade on the door, but the one right behind it, because that table is a menace to play against.
It's also a very smart call. The one closest to you expect to be able to get because, well, they're not expecting it. And that's why Doki then leant in and sort of said, well, I'm going to be expecting the next one. It's a game of expectations. You try and drive the first, the deepest. Doki, he was waiting, but looked the wrong way, and he'll be kicking him for missing that one. And that is almost every single one utilized.
Yeah, one more RC return.
One more is left, unless it happens sneakily. But look at this. Talking of Newers, he was hoping to bait the fight in the swing, hoping Doki was still sitting around, so no. And that's a little bit of a tight timing there, Doki. There is a player around the top of square, I believe, though, that might try and cause some damage. No?
Newers already fell back. Doesn't want to stick around.
Yeah,
he's going to go
moved
out.
off.
Yeah. He's going to find a different way into the building. He's aware of the fact that he's been spotted and he might be hunted, and doesn't really feel like that is the best place to stay as the next RC Retiro will come through. Now is a decision to make. Either the one closing the door or the one that's right behind on the B-bomb chassis. Again, 3 for 3. Takes that out. But that means that this one stays up for now. How are you going to deal with that?
Benj is going to deal with it. Swings his way around inside Archives, gets the take on the box, and he hasn't been intently challenged. They obviously pulled off, and as I said, there was the player up there, but they moved themselves all the way around to push from the opposite end, and there's a rotate happening on the top floor of G2 itself. They still have so much control. And you can see OXG, they're kind of curious about how to try and take it. The breakthrough, Foxy's watching the rotate, so nobody just hops down behind, and they're going to trust Newers, as you probably would, to fight the engagement themselves, but they're still a bit cautious. Probably even more so now. Doki finds the header vertical. Benja, he's waiting, and he's taking. Newers is off the board. Virtue gets caught in the drop down, well watched by Fox, but it gives away the game of where he is, and well, he might be alone. If they know where Sweater is, they might be able to close them down.
40 seconds on the clock. Oxygen, they find themselves in a disadvantage, and now all they need to do is try and lock out 1 or 2 more players to have themselves an even fighting chance on the actual site. Fox is going to be doing that above. He's going to be leaning in and finds Benja. Brings it back to that 3v2. That's the first, but there's only 20 seconds left on the clock now. They need to find themselves a way in to get that plant down. That's a free spot. Oh! That's a free kill. Blur taken out on the site.
Disaster might be striking here. They're going to pre-fire and swing. Just sees the side of the head. The smoke forces. Doki is able to get one in a trade out. One more G2 player standing, but it was a 2 versus 4. We got dangerously close.
They got way too close there. 2 kills. Well, Benja leaned into the fight as well, but wasn't able to connect. It's just that free spot on the side is just... Those are the kind of things you don't need in a situation where it could suddenly turn back around. Either way, a tech timeout from Oxygen in the meantime.
Yep, time to talk. Time to try and put the wheels back in motion in the right direction. They had themselves, obviously, the 4-2 split, but it was a little bit later. But roughly around the same time with the same amount of losses of rounds when G2 did their own timeout.
Yep, 2 rounds lost in a row. Time to call that timeout. It's about to be ending. We're about to get back underway. Oxygen have had their opportunity to...
Cool hammer.
It's a cool hammer. You know the nickname? The game name?
For the award?
Oh,
for the trophy or for the actual hammer?
The actual hammer.
Yeah, sledgehammer. We'll be back in.
We'll be back in.
With the next round in just a moment. As the timeout, I believe, has now ended. And we'll find ourselves heading up to CEO now. After a timeout, after you sort of get your heads back in the game, you're moving towards what is technically a tertiary site. You've got to look at what we've had, lockers open. OXG putting it there is saying, this is the one that we have to win. Because if this one slips away, the half slips away.
Yeah.
Numerically, mathematically, spiritually.
I wouldn't say spiritually.
Well, what would you say?
What I do know is that G2's only played this side once before throughout the entire tournament. They have won it, but that does mean there's not a lot to go on. Are they going to go for a completely different hold? Are they going to be playing this in a different kind of manner? How have you been able to prepare for this? Now, luckily, of course, it is CEO. It is very normal sites to go through, normal attacks. Like, people will have practiced this, and that's what Oxygen is going to be banking on here as well.
OXG. Pressure's on, and pressure will start towards the windows. They've prepping the knockdown on the castle. They're hoping that it's something where they'll go in, assuming it's entirely safe. Alamau will say, surprise, punch that out and shoot them in the face. It's just a different way of approaching it. It's a different sort of route through. I love the SAM cams of Zero. Obviously, they've got the buff that was put in the video slightly earlier on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love the little rework coming through. Makes it a little bit more reliable as the first E1D pops through. It's going to be a little bit of information given Doki aware of the fact that someone could be above him now. Needs to be careful that no one just suddenly drops down that skylight and takes him down, because we have seen quite some kills like that this tournament.
Dream eyes on the windows. 2 minutes, plenty of time here for OXG, and well, actually, they don't want to waste any of it. Vertical hops his way into CEO and up onto the table, suffers a bit of damage from the side, and the smoke makes things awkward. G2, they had an awareness, and they're doing everything to hold him back, but hello, that's my kill. Vertical cleans out Janitors, takes long desk, and angles towards the next fight. Cannot get further than that, though. They're still swinging into the site itself. Alamau, he's watching and spraying over the top of Dream with the kit. Dream is stuck in a very dangerous situation. He needs a sliver of support to cover the sliver of health that he's otherwise sitting with. Sweater, round on the back. New is getting Alamau, and this could be the lifeline. There is Sweater, hitting Janitors, almost hits. There it is! Suddenly, it's just down to Virtue. It was a bit of a stalemate, and now there's only one mate left, and he's able to get one down. 3 more players. One's hopped out the windows to make this very awkward. One army man crawling behind the desk. You assume that's Dream with the little amount of health that he had. He's just going to sort of play the time aspect. There's the lockdown, though. OXG get the round.
Brings them one closer to that 6 mark, that magical 6, which at least secures you for overtime. And I said it before, like, they've played it once, G2, they've won it back then, so how are you going to be playing against this? There's little to go on. The answer? Just jump in and run through the side.
I mean, it was sudden.
It is very sudden. They did not expect that to happen. And of course, it was a bit of a scrappy fight, but Oxygen, with the panic that G2 had and having to over-rotate, were able to punish those players coming back to the sides and found success. We're headed back towards the basement, everybody.
Bleep. We're getting a little bit of player.
That's a bit of a bleep. We're getting some player comms again.
Oh, I missed them. All right, back down, as you said, towards lockers, towards a site that is entirely fallen into the favor of the defenders throughout this game. Attacker has not been able to breach it. We saw a little bit more of an actual fight on the site, I would say, in the most recent round from OXG than G2's first, but G2's second was a bit of a step up. They just sort of suffered time, and if that's the conversation, I mean, obviously in the previous round, time became less of a factor and more of a let's be inside and fight.
It's kind of a G2 way, right, as well. It's like, just fight. And whilst at the same time, they are very structural with their falling backs, you can almost, like, write down an entire time schedule on how the G2 roamers will play on this side and when they will fall back. Normally, it's somewhere between 145 and 120 left on the clock. That's when they start headed towards that first floor. Something needs to be, like, particularly happening for that not to happen. It's going to be quite some pinks to come through. Luckily for them, not the actual player inside the towers, because it could have been an instant kill to come through on a G2 player there.
I mean, it likely would have been. Do they know about Alamau? Oh, Foxay's able to win one out, but he exits the second as well. Foxay somehow connected with Alamau there. Benja, he's able to bite back. Hopes Foxay tries to finish the swing into him, but instead it's on the window. There's the replay of the second kill that came through, and oh, Alamau's going to be kicking himself for not getting that. The drones roll on by, put the pressure onto Benja, who's otherwise just sort of popping up and trying to pop them right back down. Look at the time, though. Look at the body advantage. I talked at the start of this about G2 suffering. Can OXG prove otherwise?
That's it. Hatch gets opened up. That's going to be allowing some extra flexibility here for Oxygen, especially with the amount of time left. I think all Benja's going to be doing here is just stick around and try and go for one more fight before he drops towards the site. And soon Oxygen will be aware. There's some pings coming through. They have an ID. They're like, I cannot quite see that corner, but I hear something, and now the drop comes through. C4 gets ripped, ready to be tossed in.
Ready on bleepers, ready on C4, nobody's ready to catch it. He moves past the next hatch just as that gets broken open too, trying to find somewhere that's
back maybe
safe. Yeah, there's always the chance of backup, but in the 4 versus 3, you always got to be super cautious.
Pressure coming down towards the server stairs. Top of square is getting opened up as well. They're afraid that someone might still be here. Benja goes aggressive. Oh, actually gets a spot. He's going to get the kill. No, he does not.
He was trying his hardest, but it was such a dangerous position. You can see the pressure and control over the top of the hatch. They want to see if they can get the kit down. But with the smoke and the fire and everything burning around them, what do? You have to wait. Or you have to try and force the fight elsewhere. A huge risky play, but Virtue finds Newers in the meantime. Fox is looking for revenge. It's not being gifted to him. Another canister pops. Virtue, he knows he's buying himself a bit more time, and there's a rotate. There's a change of ideas. They cannot just go for the plant and the default. They're going to have to try and drive themselves from either the hatch above the site, or maybe even a full rotate. It's the site hatch. They're going to get themselves right next to the pillar. They might even try and go a bit deeper. They're not able to win it out. The 2 versus 2. The 2 versus 1. Virtue gets the last! And G2 pull themselves back level.
Again, they've only lost it once in the entire tournament, but this came very close to becoming his second one.
Lonnie Lightning.
And that brings us to 5-5 and round 11, where one of these two teams is going to be finding themselves on a map point.
That was filth from Fox. I mean, it's sort of back and forth. You're seeing these, like, almost statements of power. These statements of, I'm not going to hand over the territory. They have almost learned a lesson, as cautious as I am to say it, because it's early in the series, but it's real late in the tournament, of when to hold and when to fold. And it's always been the toughest thing for G2.
It has been. They have a bit of a, you know, it's not quite the M&M reputation of losing XC1s all the time, but G2 does give away the you know, number advantage every now and then and lose the round on the back of it. That's something that I'm pretty sure Fabian has been hammering down on. for the majority of his time here, that they just need to slow it down, because there is that saying, sometimes all you need to do is just nothing.
Or there's 20 seconds left on the...
Or there's 20
oh, no, that's
seconds
the
left on
other
the clock, and what do you do, right?
That's the other saying.
Yes.
One of these two teams will find themselves on map point, and if it's OXG, well, it's their map. They'll probably be very happy with that, and G2, less so. However, obviously, their fight from earlier on in the day was one where they almost lost it, pulled it back, and pulled it back. Virtue. He's waiting to see if he can get the first line of the approach. He's hot droned against, but no one gets the kill. Gives himself a little bit more width than wiggle room and takes it. On the lockdown there, onto Sweater. He's playing against the time, playing with the motion. It doesn't really care if you get pinged, in the words of some of the teams and coaches. It is just a ping, but on the back of these ones, a lot of guns watching.
Ready for that jump out. Virtue just needs to stay patient, but these drones are giving away the spots. You can see the shadow on the desk. He's running past there with a Ramadash. Gets away with his life. He's going to be joining the rest of G2 now. On a bit of a better hold now. They have that advantage. Long-range engagement. Newers is not going to be able to do any damage. Instantly gets pressured down from Tellers down below. Impacts as well. So he just has to get out. You cannot stay there. Rotating with Oxygen.
Over towards the top of box. Alamau is holding firm behind the paper, which probably isn't the best thing to defend against the bullet, but as long as they don't have the intel, he's there. Oh, wait. They have the intel, he's there. He has to pop himself a smoke. He's going to buy himself a little bit of time and wiggle room. They're stacking up and drawing focus for Virtue. And there's so much movement in the Oryx on this map. Now, the 5 versus 3. G2 have lost it before. This time, are they able to eke out one more kill? There's a C4 underneath Vertical. It doesn't quite get the full bite. Virtue can take the drop if he wants to. He's waiting before another trap laid. Fox A, perfect combination there of OXG.
Yeah, they knew he had to come down, or otherwise it was going to be a Vertical pre-fire, so they would have had that kill either way. And that just puts it back one in favor to Oxygen, but still the disadvantage to go with. 45 seconds, and how much have they actually prepared this side is always that question. Because soon they will have to go for an execute, and there is some hatches that have been opened up, but it's always a bit of awkwardness dropping through them. And so Fox A is going to be trying to cut the pie as there's the Kiba barriers on its way. He's going to use the breaching charge to get rid of it, just to provide himself some more width, as there's 25 seconds left.
That's it, you put the fear in, you make them think you might swing one way, there's otherwise the remaining players putting pressure from above, but as we said, there's not a lot of time, and it's a very difficult one to go for the stock drop hatch plant. And that's what they're entirely stacking behind. They need Fox to find something on the back end, but instead they just lose on the front. 2 players down, it's only Fox they left of the round itself, but even in a 4 versus 1, G2, they're not going to throw that one away. They are sitting on map point for the 3rd time today. This time, the first of the series.
There are 1 more rounds coming through. Can they get it? Can they convert it for a 3rd time to a map win against NA? It was a good trap on Virtue. It's just a shame that so much damage already had been done to Oxygen. And all they really had was the hatches to drop through, as the rest had been barricaded off with the Kibas. Now we're headed back towards that top floor, 2 CEO. And the last time we were here, we had Oxygen put up the pace, repel in, run across, get that first kill, make G2 panic, and punish them as they rotated in. Will you be ready for this time? You would hope they are.
They gotta be, but the 4-2 half isn't the most unknown half, and if there's only going to be one site that falls from both teams, that's what OXG's got to build behind. We're still far away from this map potentially being over. It's down to OXG now, before they find themselves on G2's Skyscraper, a map that they've very much enjoyed playing throughout this tournament, or potentially a cafe.
We'll find out if 2 or 3 maps is what we need, but first we need to decide on this one. Bench out on the road needs to be careful as Oxygen is getting quite close. He's going down below. Doesn't worry too much about it for now. The rest of G2 also just set up around that top floor. This time more bodies able to strike instantly if a quick push is what the plan is going to be for Oxygen. Newer's on the hunt down below. Benja seems to be somewhat aware of the fact that there might be someone coming up from this staircase.
A bomb has been located.
It is always that risky swing, that rotate on the door. We've seen Newers take these many, many times before. The Benj has actually drifted away. If he's gone unchecked, that could buy him a bit more safety, but the drone game has been pretty good, pretty succinct. They obviously have utilized things like the SAM cams this time. Instead, they want a bit more of a direct force, and G2 can only wait. Pressure on the windows. Not the pacey swing in they did last time, but there's still plenty of time left in the round. You've got to make sure you remove Benja first of all. Alamau, he's watching, and Newers is going to do just what I said before the fight. Isn't his though, Benja. He's able to take the pinpoint precision needed, and that is a risk because now you know Benja's underneath, and now you know they've got a C4 there too.
And that's the pressure of Oxygen below gone as well. No grenades going up, and instead, indeed, as you mentioned, you cannot just go for a blind plan because that nitro cell will come for you. Sweater is looking to lock that down at least somewhat from the top of square. Benja is leaning back into the archives. He's gonna see if he can go for another fight. Sees that drone, knows he's getting hunted and gets shut down. Deals a little bit of damage as another train comes through on the opposite side of the map.
Very important there, OXG, they keep it balanced. With the one that they got back, they made sure they were just one more step in, but they got to get that diffuser over. They got to try and put the pressure on the site itself. If it gets caught out on the window and drops to the floor, that is a very, very, very long fall. Sweater, he's holding on the back end of square for now. Doki, he's dropped out. Pinpoint from vertical. He had a bit of a slow start to the map, but if he strikes now, they're the impact kills you need. There's another that almost wants the engagement, but once again, G2, from being a body up, have slowly drifted to being one down. It's pressure coming all the way from stock. They're clearing themselves towards the plant. They know the objective, and Blur's going to see if he's got his own objective. Stop it connecting. The first fight is his. He doesn't know about stock to his right, and that's the quick pick back up. And Alamau, all that's left inside the site. The 2 versus 1. The C4 cannot stop the catch. They're spraying too high. They're fighting too low. And OXG got that one more round, and we potentially have 3.
Best of 3 in rounds now. We needed at least 12. G2 will be starting off on the attack. And the 4-2 splits have been prevalent for the defense, which means that Oxygen do theoretically have the advantage for this map, as they're headed down towards the lockers first.
It's always these moments with G2. You can never really truly escape OT fights with these teams, and that's the steady on. Will the fact that we're leading in on defense, as we said before, lockers, this site has been flawless from defenders. Nobody this game has been able to crack this. No one's been able to put the pressure on. There were moments where you think G2 should have, but that man advantage thing is perpetually a problem for them, and they just can't seem to solve.
If they were able to solve that, it would be probably like one of the most scary teams in the world, just like W7M. I mean, they are already top 3.
I was going to say, let's be fair.
But that will make them even more scary.
They're rubbish. They're
you know, that's not at all it. But that would just make them a lot more scary. If they can like convert every single opening kill, you don't want to play against that. Now they at least bleed.
They do. But both these teams want to fight W7M in the final. And they want to make them bleed, probably more than anything. Fox A is close to the fire. And he's in a position here where the spray's coming down from underneath. They don't expect the jump out. They don't expect the watch currently. It's a Solus. And what the Solus might do is see if anybody's on their cams on the window before they make the movement. But they're not entirely sure about it. They think there might be some pressure coming from elsewhere. They know it is. They see the drone, and instead of risking it, why? It was successful in the very first round, but this is the very maybe last.
Yeah, in that very first round, we had that 2 jump out gameplay from Oxygen, but in the end, G2 came out with a numbers advantage, which they weren't able to convert. Now they need to try and find it again. Doki descending the main stairs, or at least he thought of doing that, but first he's going to send his drone in. And just preparing himself, instantly dropping through. They're wanting to get some pace down on the actual side. 1:40 left on the clock. It is plenty of time to do your preparative work. That's exactly what they are doing here, creating rotations as well. And I believe some X-Kairos just got shot out there.
Yeah.
It's soft.
They were playing against the X-Kairos. I mean, you shouldn't truly run out, especially when you've got Blur on the role of the Thermite as well. Slightly different approach here from G2 in that they're going to focus themselves onto Blue first. Seemingly, the stuns, the bounce, the grenades, you know you got to move away from the shield. Can they get the catch on the back end? But Foxay, he wanted to watch, and he's caught in the fire! G2 swing their way through, and they've pincered the person in blue. They're able to get the swing and the take. They take a lot of damage in the meantime. They were watching the hatch as well above the site, making sure that nobody rotated around to give some support. It's locked in, and they're locked out! The Aussie gets a triple, but he's kind of hungry for more!
Seabag in the bulletproof camera there is letting them know we're coming for you, Oxygen. This might be the last time you win the lockers. But they're ready for it. There's still C4s, there's still fire on the board, and 40 seconds left away. Grenades are being rolled in to get rid of that utility. Sweater is being pushed back as C4 gets tossed out. Will it find anybody? No, as it gets destroyed. Smokes are blocking lines aside. He needs to go aggressive now. He needs to go for the swing to stop them from trying to get that plant down.
They're holding so patiently, but you can't really be patient when they're entirely swimming around you. They don't want to give themselves to the fight, but the fight comes to them. It has to be an ace for vertical. They're going for the plant, but they get the man. G2, once again, one step and one round away from taking map number 1.
And I can bet they are going to lockers themselves as well. Of course, they got close there before. But again, it is just a side that is almost so perfect for them. But what a take this was, by the way. Just first of all, that fire, putting the opponents on fire themselves, and locking off those two players. That was a very hard advantage to throw away for G2, and they did not.
I mean,
if they threw that away, we would have a bigger problem.
When they play like they're a unit, when they play like they're a team and not 5 individual players, they are one of the scariest teams in this game. We talked about it yesterday, watching them with Dez, and you see it from them that if they're sort of corralled and shepherded towards an idea, G2's collective IQ gets them over the line. Unfortunately, it takes a lot to keep them on the rails at times. Chance.
Arena.
Fill the arena. But OXG, I mean, they were 1 round away before. They're more than able, more than likely to pull this one back. Lockers has had close moments for them. There's been moments of growth. There's been moments where they're getting more and more dangerous, more and more interested in the angles, the ideas.
That's it. They were close before, but then G2 able to turn it back around. If the entry kill is this time being preserved though, G2 managed to play it slow and take as much time as they can. Oxygen is going to have a way harder time than they did in the previous round when they were trying to attack the lockers. Now, still some entry denial devices are being set up. A lot of the hatches actually have been opened up by G2. Might be wondering as of why, but that could be just to send C4s back up or just to have rotations out as Virtue gets the first on the dirt tunnel.
G2 with a start, and it is a big player from the last few rounds gone. OXG, they're going on a bit of a direct hunt. We know how many times G2 has extended up here to open. They have players above the hatch. This time, they've locked themselves away. They've pulled themselves further back. Whether the hatcher is open or not, it means they're not giving them the fight this early. They've opted to instead say, look, we know this hasn't gone super great, just good enough, and we want this to be a final round. We can work. There's a bit of a hold. Benja. Well, he's not even going to get the fight yet.
Yeah, the barbed wire got punched. They knew someone was coming from there. So what you do, you hold the angle, you get the smoke in, just buy yourself some time because they don't want to stick around on servers. They don't want to have the same happen against them as what they did to Oxygen. And as Oxygen is getting themselves together near servers, they are going to be opening up that wall. They're going to be trying to get rid of as much of the fire that could possibly be there. And, of course, those serial laser gates, because they need to get that plant down at some point. There's just so much utility still left. 3 C4s. There is going to be smoke canisters left. You need to go for kills and execute on the default A side is not going to stick.
That's what they're trying to work out right now, but they're at least getting a lot of the work done earlier on Dream. He waits. He wants to plant, and he's got to try and bait some of this. There's the last canister gone. The fire pops its way around. Alamau with the pulse will have the heartbeat read on anything that is trying to matter. So Foxay's going to matter on the back end. Benja blows him out of the vault this time. There's Sweater getting one back, and Dream swings wide, removes the gold hold. They lose the pulse. They lose a C4 not used, but Blur wins one on the back end with a heavy hitting DMR. It's a rotate over the top. They've got the split push. Newers has to go massive as he has throughout this whole tournament. It's not over until it's done. Newers on the plant. G2 swarms. There's one. He goes back on the plant. There's only a pocket full of seconds. He looks for the next fight. The C4 gets removed. We cannot get it. G2 do. And map 1 is theirs.
They will again take Lockers. It was indeed a hard-fought victory. And a lot of relief on their faces as well. You see it on the cameras. That's one lag into the grand final.